I'm Tomlyn Nicholson. This is Saturday, January 17, 2026. Federal agents in Minnesota are facing intense riots as domestic agitators seize parts of the city, prompting President Trump to warn of invoking the Insurrection Act to deploy the National Guard and restore law and order amid chaos targeting ICE operations and local law enforcement. An ICE agent opened fire in self-defense during the Minneapolis unrest, fatally shooting an attacker while federal officials arrested a gang member for stealing FBI gear, underscoring the surge in domestic terrorism threatening public safety and border enforcement efforts. Consumer sentiment ticked higher in early January, hitting 54 on the University of Michigan's index, beating economists' expectations of 53.5, but it's still well below last year's 71.7, with inflation worries lingering at 4.2%. Americans are cautious amid a soft job market, yet this uptick signals some renewed confidence heading into 2026. The Senate approved a $174 billion funding bill to prevent a Department of Homeland Security shutdown, prioritizing border security and immigration enforcement after Republicans secured key concessions from Democrats on national defense spending. The CIA director visited Venezuela's new president while opposition leader Maria Corina Machado toured the U.S., advocating for democratic reforms after Nicolas Maduro's capture. Diplomatic efforts focus on stabilizing the region as the U.S. manages oil resources and warns Cuba against interference. President Trump unveiled a sweeping healthcare initiative aimed at slashing costs for families through market-driven reforms, urging lawmakers to focus on affordability and cut wasteful federal programs that burden taxpayers. Conservative commentator Benny Johnson has returned from California after investigating alleged massive fraud in state programs, claiming billions lost in COVID relief and SNAP benefits under Governor Gavin Newsom's watch. His findings highlight what he describes as dark criminal activities, sparking renewed debates on taxpayer accountability amid federal probes into similar issues. U.S. forces deployed an aircraft carrier to the Middle East as Iran cracks down on massive protests demanding regime change, with Trump administration officials considering strikes if the Ayatollah continues violent suppressions against their people. The Justice Department ruled that bans on mailing handguns infringe on Second Amendment rights, delivering a win for gun owners and challenging federal restrictions that conservatives say overstep constitutional protections. America and Taiwan inked a landmark trade deal eliminating tariffs and pledging $500 billion in semiconductor investments to boost domestic production, strengthening national security against Chinese economic threats. President Trump hosted Venezuelan opposition leader at the White House, where she presented her Nobel Peace Prize, discussing U.S. support for ousting the socialist regime and seizing control of oil resources to promote energy independence. President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy troops to Minnesota amid ongoing protests against ICE operations following a fatal shooting. The move comes as federal agents surge into the state for corruption probes in social programs, heightening tensions between local and national authorities. Iran's regime intensified crackdowns on protesters renaming streets after Trump, with over 500 deaths reported in the unrest entering its second week. U.S. officials commend the demonstrations as calls for freedom, considering support options amid international scrutiny. Trump threatened tariffs on countries opposing his push to acquire Greenland, escalating debates on U.S. territorial ambitions and Arctic security. Allies expressed concerns about militarization, while the administration emphasized countering foreign influence in the region.